picture this. You're walking into a coffee shop, and you see someone a few steps behind you.
Right.
So you do that totally normal, everyday thing. You hold the door open for like an extra 2 seconds so they don't have to break their stride.
Costs you absolutely nothing.
Exactly. It's just a minor flick of the wrist. But as they walk through, they look at you with this intense, wide-eyed gratitude.
Oh, yeah, we all know that look.
Right. And they start thanking you profusely. They offer to buy your coffee. They're like holding up the entire line. They act quite literally as if you just pulled them from a burning building.
Over a door.
Over a door.
Mm.
And you're standing there suddenly just deeply uncomfortable thinking, please just accept the freebie and walk away.
We've all been in some version of that exact situation.
We really have. And it begs the question, why is it so incredibly hard for humans to just, take a small favor, nod, and move on?
Well, it's the awkward dance of the unpaid debt. We like to think of ourselves as these highly rational, modern creatures living in a modern world.
I mean, we try to be.
We do try. But the moment someone hands us something for free, even just 2 seconds of door holding our brains basically bypass logic entirely and sound a primordial alarm.
And that biological alarm bell, that is the mission of today's deep dive.
It is a fascinating one, too.
It really is. We are exploring the hidden, almost biological mechanics of human obligation. We're looking at why we are physically wired to reject a free lunch. And honestly, more importantly, how you can navigate giving and receiving in your own life without crossing that invisible line into manipulation.
Because it is a very fine line.
It's tightrope. And to get there, we have a genuinely amazing stack of sources today. We are blending these foundational texts in modern psychology and sociology with something completely different.
Yeah, a really unique perspective.
Right, we're using the personal field notes of a man named Dave Hartzell.
Which is such a brilliant pairing because Dave isn't, some academic operating in a sterile university laboratory.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Dave is a master HVAC technician. He owns a heating and air conditioning business in Kingfisher, Oklahoma.
Kingfisher?
Yep, it's a small town. And he has been in the trade for 47 years.
Wow, 47 years.
Nearly half a century. And for all that time, this man has been walking into strangers' homes, fixing their most vital appliances, and just observing human behavior in its most unguarded, stressed-out state.
And his everyday observations end up perfectly mirroring what sociologists have been proving with, rigorous data for decades.
Okay, let's unpack this by starting right where Dave does, with a very specific, seemingly entirely mundane service call.
Lay it on me.
So, Dave goes to a woman's house in Kingfisher to fix a broken fan motor. He gets in there, figures out the problem immediately, and realizes it's just a blown fuse.
Easy fix.
Super easy. The replacement part costs $2. He pops it in and is out of the house in 15 minutes flat. Because it's such a minor thing, he just looks at the customer and says, hey, don't worry about it, no charge.
A perfectly reasonable gesture from a small-town tradesman, right? He just doesn't want to bother with an invoice for $2.
Right, the paperwork alone would cost more in time. The woman, however, absolutely refuses to accept this reality.
Of course she does.
She does not believe him.
Correct.
First, she tries to hand him a $20 bill. Dave politely declines the cash.
Naturally.
So she practically marches into her kitchen, rummages around in her pantry, comes back with a tin of homemade peanut brittle, and physically presses it into his hands.
She literally forced it on him.
She did. She looks at him and says, well, you have to take this then.
And in that tin of peanut brittle, we see the invisible ledger that exists in the human mind.
The ledger.
Yes. Because what Dave realized in that living room is that her reaction was not just some quirk of Midwestern politeness. It was a primal psychological mechanism running on pure autopilot.
I mean, if our brains are physically hardwired to react this intensely to a $2 piece of plastic and wire, we need to look at the evolutionary mechanism behind it. Like, why couldn't she just say thanks and let him drive away?
To understand the why, we have to look at a classic piece of sociology. In 1960, a sociologist named Alvin Gouldner published a landmark paper in the American Sociological Review.
Okay.
It was called The Norm of Reciprocity. And Gouldner looked at massive amounts of cross-cultural evidence. He didn't just study mid-century American.
It went broader.
Much broader. He looked at societies all over the globe, spanning completely different eras. And he found that the obligation to return a favor is one of the most universal moral rules in the history of the human species.
Really universal.
Completely universal. It predates any specific religion we have today. You find it operating in cultures that share different languages, different climates, different social structures.
Wow.
Yeah, they all share this one foundational rule. If someone gives you something, you must give something back.
And evolutionary biology tells us this isn't just about being nice. Or
Yeah.
in a hunter-gatherer tribe, if someone shares part of their mammoth kill with you and you don't feel a burning urge to reciprocate when you find berries the next week, well, you become a liability.
Exactly. You get ostracized.
So this discomfort is literally an evolutionary survival mechanism designed to keep the tribe cohesive.
Is this need to repay someone literally like an emotional itch that you just have to scratch?
It is the core engine of our social survival. And humans experience this obligation not just as a fleeting thought, but as a visceral physical discomfort when the debt goes unfulfilled.
Physical discomfort. That is wild. Over a $2 fuse.
Right. Gouldner noted this early on, and later, the psychologist Robert Cialdini heavily documented it in his famous 1984 book, Influence the Psychology of Persuasion.
Oh, yeah, the classic.
A total classic. Cialdini showed that this internal pressure is so deeply embedded in our nervous system that it can be triggered by incredibly tiny, completely unsolicited favors.
Unsolicited being the key word there.
Exactly. You didn't ask for the favor, you might not even want the favor, but the moment it's bestowed upon you, your body physically registers a debt that it desperately wants to clear.
It feels less like a polite gesture and more like, I don't know, an app running in the background of your phone. That is a great analogy.
Like you don't even realize it's open, but it's quietly draining your battery. It's taking up cognitive space. And the only way to stop your phone from dying is to force quit the app by returning the favor.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. Your brain is dedicating resources to this open loop. The discomfort of an unbalanced ledger just grows by the second.
Which completely reframes the peanut brittle.
Yeah.
The woman in Kingfisher wasn't just being sweet, and the peanut brittle wasn't really about peanut brittle at all.
Not in the slightest.
It was about discharging an uncomfortable physical sensation. Dave gave her the fuse, the quick visit, the relief of having her fan working again. Her ledger was suddenly unbalanced, and her battery was draining.
She was stuck in that discomfort.
Yeah. And by taking the peanut brittle, which Dave admits he ate on the drive home and it was delicious, he was actually performing a second, completely separate act of kindness.
Oh, that's a brilliant way to look at it.
Refusing the brittle would have left her sitting in her house, just stewing in the physical discomfort of an unfulfilled obligation. Letting her give him the 10 was the only way to let her force quit the app and settle her internal ledger.
And once you understand that this is a biological glitch, like a physical pressure that people will do almost anything to relieve, you start to see how easily it can be engineered.
Right, because if our nervous systems are this vulnerable to an unbalanced ledger, someone out there must have realized this can be weaponized.
Oh, absolutely.
Which takes us straight from natural human instinct into calculated strategy. Businesses have built entire models around exploiting this.
They absolutely have. And this brings us to what Cialdini calls the lever, the exploitative dark side of the ledger. Yes. Cialdini documented this pattern across dozens of industries. What's fascinating here is that the body registers the debt the exact same way, whether it's a genuine favor or a sales tactic. It's the upscale clothing store that hands you a free artisanal chocolate the second you walk through the door, right before they start steering you toward a very expensive jacket.
Oh, I've fallen for that. The free sample at the supermarket operates the exact same way. The person is standing right there, making eye contact, just waiting for you to put the full-size box of frozen pizza rolls into your cart.
Exactly. It's the personalized address labels or the nickel stuffed into a charity envelope, which, data shows, will literally triple their donation conversion rate.
Triple it, just for a nickel.
Because of the lever. Or, to bring it back to Dave's industry, it's the contractor who shows up to your house with a branded coffee mug, offers a quote-unquote free hour-long assessment of your home, and then sits across your kitchen table with a glossy presentation deck.
Pressuring you into a 5-figure decision on a new HVAC system right then and there.
Right. The customer feels trapped in that moment. The body has registered the debt from the coffee mug and the hour of time in the exact same biological way the woman registered the debt for the $2 fuse.
But the salesman has deliberately engineered the environment.
Exactly. They've engineered it so that the only way to scratch the itch, the only way to discharge the debt is to sign the massive contract. The salesman knows the customer cannot easily walk away without buying. They have completely hijacked the evolutionary survival mechanism.
So the return favor they extract ends up being disproportionately larger than the original tiny gift.
They are using reciprocity as a lever to pry open your wallet.
Now, Dave's everyday behavior provides a really sharp contrast to that salesman at the kitchen table. Dave writes in his field notes that he does small kindnesses on his service calls all the time, completely for free.
Right, just as a matter of course.
Yeah, if he's walking past a bathroom and notices a wobbly toilet seat, he grabs his tools and tightens it. If he happens to have the oil can in his hand near the garage, he'll fix the squeaky door hinge. Or, if he sees a heavy box sitting by the back door as he's leaving, he just picks it up and carries it to the curb.
And he doesn't charge for this.
He doesn't charge a dime for any of this. He claims it's just the right way to behave when you're a guest in someone's home.
Which seems like a fundamentally different approach to business.
Wait, hold on. Here's where it gets really interesting. Stop right there, because I buy that Dave is a good guy. But he literally wrote in his notes that he knows they're going to call him back.
Right.
He is consciously aware of the psychology. He knows that when he tightens that toilet seat, the customer's brain registers a debt. He knows their body is going to remember that balanced ledger the next time their AC breaks.
He's not naive to it.
Oh. So how is tightening a wobbly toilet seat not just a stealthy, folksy version of the corporate-free coffee mug? Isn't he pulling the lever, too? Isn't that just a stealthy strategy?
That is such a good challenge. It raises an important question, and it's one Dave actually wrestles with in his own writing. The answer lies in the crucial ethical distinction between genuine reciprocity and weaponized reciprocity.
Okay.
It comes down to the difference between a byproduct and a goal.
So it's like the difference between holding the door for someone because you're naturally polite versus holding the door for someone specifically because you want them to vote for you in the next local election.
That is a perfect parallel. Humans have highly attuned cheater detection radar.
We really do.
We can subconsciously sense intent. Dave does these things, carrying the box, oiling the hinge, because he has decided that is the kind of person he wants to be. He believes it's the right way to act in someone's home.
So the fact that they call him back is secondary.
Right. The reciprocity, the fact that they call him a year later, is a natural byproduct of him being a decent human being. But if he started looking for wobbly toilet seats specifically to generate future sales, if the reciprocity became the goal, it would entirely corrupt the kindness.
It changes the energy entirely.
Completely. The lever requires manipulation. Genuine reciprocity just requires decency.
And I guess the proof that Dave isn't pulling a lever is found in how he handles situations where the customer tries to wildly overpay the debt.
Yes, the over-discharge problem.
The psychological math of the over-discharge problem is fascinating. Dave talks about how, because that physical discomfort of owing someone is so strong, customers will frequently try to just blow the ledger out of the water.
They want to be completely clear of the debt.
Exactly. People try to hand him a $100 tip for a visit he didn't charge for. They sneak a $50 bill into the cab of his truck when he isn't looking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they offer to write glowing 5-star online reviews if he'll give them a steep discount on future work.
And Dave, politely but firmly, refuses almost all of these gestures.
Which seems counterintuitive if you're running a business, right? Turning down $50 sitting on your driver's seat feels like leaving money on the table.
It does.
Yeah.
But he turns it down because overpaying a debt creates a residual transactional relationship, and Dave wants the next interaction to be completely clean.
I see.
If he takes a $100 tip for a free visit, the dynamic immediately gets muddy. The next time that customer calls with a broken furnace, they're going to feel like they've prepaid for his goodwill.
Or worse, he might feel obligated to undercharge them for a massive repair.
Exactly. The ledger becomes incredibly complex and weighted. Dave wants his customers to feel totally free to call him without feeling like they still know him or that he owes them a massive favor in return.
And we are back to why the homemade peanut brittle was the ultimate ideal resolution.
It really was perfect.
It was perfectly proportional to a $2 fuse. It was highly personal, costing her a bit of time and effort to make, but it didn't create a new reverse debt running back the other way.
No messy residue.
Right. By accepting it, he allowed the ledger to be zeroed out beautifully, leaving no muddy residue behind.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we aren't just talking about HVAC repairs anymore. We can scale this concept up to look at how reciprocity operates over the span of an entire life or, a 47-year career.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Think about your own marriage. Think about your deepest 30-year friendships or your most vital long-term working relationships with colleagues.
It applies everywhere.
It really does. Dave takes his business philosophy and applies it directly to everyday human connection. He argues that the relationships that actually endure for decades are the ones where reciprocity flows smoothly in both directions over long timescales without anyone keeping a strict, itemized ledger.
Because in a healthy marriage, both parties are naturally inclined to give, and crucially, both are inclined to receive.
Being able to receive is so important.
It is. The ledger evens itself out organically over years because no one is trying to manipulate it for a short-term advantage.
The moment you start tracking every single deposit and withdrawal on a mental chalkboard, the relationship is already in deep trouble.
Because asymmetry is what eats a relationship from the inside out. Asymmetry. Right. We see it when one person in a friendship is constantly using reciprocity as a lever, doing you favors, only when they are about to ask to borrow your truck or need a massive favor themselves.
Ugh, we all know someone like that.
We do. We see it when one partner in a marriage feels they are always the giver, constantly depositing into an emotional bank account that never pays out, or, just as destructively, when one person becomes totally comfortable receiving without ever feeling the biological urge to give back.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. That asymmetry creates a localized resentment that eventually destroys the bond entirely.
And this exact same dynamic plays out in business over the long term. Kingfisher, Oklahoma is a small town, and Dave makes a brilliant observation about the social immune system of small communities. The manipulative lever strategy fundamentally cannot survive there.
It is mathematically impossible over a 47-year timeline.
Right. If you are the contractor showing up with the free coffee mug and pressuring people at their kitchen tables, the town's social immune system is going to catch you. Word travels fast.
Very fast.
Dave notes that if you try to use reciprocity as a lever, it might work for a few months. You might make a quick buck. But it stops working entirely within a year. The town is simply too small to support shortcuts, and people talk.
They absolutely talk.
So the only thing that can survive almost half a century in a place like Kingfisher is genuine, uncounted exchange.
Because over 47 years, the ledger naturally counts itself. Dave gives incredible examples of his oldest customers. He talks about doing emergency service calls on Christmas Eve for a family whose heat went out and not charging them double.
Wow, on Christmas Eve.
Yeah. He talks about quietly giving a longtime customer a steep price break during a year when he knew they had hit hard financial times.
And the beauty of that uncounted exchange is that those exact same families will insist on paying full freight, strictly forbidding any discounts the following year when they're back on their feet.
Exactly. Nobody is writing these things down.
Trust is the ledger.
That is beautifully said. Trust is the ledger. Which brings us full circle to the ultimate conclusion of the peanut brittle story. It didn't just end with Dave driving away eating candy.
Right, there's a part two. So a full year after the incident with the $2 fuse, that same woman in Kingfisher called Dave again.
Her ledger was still balanced?
It was. But this time, it wasn't a blown fuse. She had a failing furnace motor. It was a serious problem. And fixing it generated a meaningful, substantial bill. And what did she do? She paid it in full, without a single question, hesitation, or complaint.
Because the trust had already been firmly established without either of them forcing it.
Exactly. And it didn't stop at the invoice either. She sent Dave a Christmas card that year with a photograph of her grandkids and a handwritten note saying how grateful she was for his help. Dave realized that the peanut brittle wasn't the end of a transaction.
Not at all.
No, it was just one highly visible moment in a long, invisible, ongoing exchange of trust.
It is a profoundly different way to look at every interaction we have, from the coffee shop door to a major business deal.
It really is. So to bring all of this home for you listening today, the human urge to return a favor, that norm of reciprocity, is incredibly real. It is deeply automatic, and it is an evolutionary mechanism powerful enough to cause actual physical discomfort.
You literally feel it in your body.
You do. Now, you can try to exploit it. You can pull the lever. But you can't do it for long without burning trust to the ground, whether that's in a marriage or a small town.
The immune system will catch you.
It always does. The absolute cleanest, most effective way to handle this biological glitch is simply to leave it alone. Do small kindnesses because you genuinely want to. Accept proportional thank yous so the people around you can clear their mental ledgers. And just let trust build honestly over time.
It's the only strategy that survives the long game. But before we wrap up today, there is one final, somewhat provocative thought I want to leave you with. Building on what Gouldner and Cialdini proved about that intense physical discomfort of the unfulfilled obligation.
Okay, I'm ready.
We know the body physically aches to clear a debt. So what happens when someone does you a favor so massively life-altering, so incredibly large that you can never possibly hope to repay it?
Wait, really? Oh, wow. Like an unpayable debt.
Oh.
Like someone donating a kidney or a mentor risking their entire career to give you a shot.
Precisely. If we are biologically wired to feel pressure until the ledger is balanced, does a permanently unbalanced ledger eventually become too heavy to carry?
Oh, that is dark.
At a certain point, does that immense, overwhelming gratitude actually mutate into resentment toward the person who helped you, simply because they have permanently trapped you in a debt you can never discharge?
Wow.
It is a deeply uncomfortable, fascinating question to chew on the next time someone offers you a massive favor, or, the next time you are tempted to offer one to someone else.
That is going to keep me up at night. The unbearable weight of a favor too large. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep an eye on those uncounted ledgers, try not to pull a lever on your friends, and we'll see you next time. Remember, if you're holding that door open for a stranger, just let them say thank you.